Recognizing the need is the primary condition for design, said Charles Eames. Architecture is the art and technique of designing and building. It is distinguished from the skills associated with construction. B.Arch, Bachelor of Architecture, is an undergraduate degree in the field of architecture. This 5-year full-time program is a blend of theoretical and practical knowledge for students to learn the art of planning, designing, and constructing physical structures of various kinds. Due to their creative nature and attention to detail, they are considered a combination of art and intelligence. Architects are generally highly respected in society, making architecture a good career option if you like to be seen as a respected person in the society. Urban design involves the design of buildings, group of buildings, spaces, and landscapes, and establishing frameworks and procedure that will deliver successful development by different people over time. This again calls for determination, perseverance, and commitment. So, you have to believe in it before you see it. Welcome to be the CEO of your live series on Manthan with Saraswati. After successfully running the festival series, doctor series, educator series, and discussion with people who have shared their various experiences and vision on this platform, I am now inviting the youth who have taken charge of their life to come and share their knowledge and experience to guide and empower the youngsters. Today is the 9th episode of the series, and there is many more to come. Today, on Manthan with Saraswati, we are very, very happy to have Ashutosh Singhal, a young urban designer and architect. A very, very warm welcome to you on Manthan with Saraswati, Ashutosh.
Thank you so much, Auntie.
Okay, so Ashutosh, let me introduce you to my viewers and then we will get started with our conversation.
Just very excited to be here and have this conversation with you.
I'm equally excited too. So let me introduce to the viewers first. Ashutosh is an urban designer and architect working with Site Lab Urban Studio based in San Francisco, California. Prior to the Site Lab, he practiced as a project architect at RMA Architects, Mumbai, leading a wide range of select project highlights from residential to official and institutional. His passion for city making is driven by people-oriented strategies and interdisciplinary collaboration towards creating more amicable and equitable environment and simply happier humans. His select project highlights include Google's Downtown West Campus plan in San Jose, California, the School of Arts and Science in Ahmedabad University, exhibition on sanitation and equity at the Chicago Architecture Biennial 2019, and a fellowship program studying Mayan towns in Yucatan, Mexico. He is a licensed architect with a Bachelor of Architecture from KRVIA, Mumbai University, and Master of Architecture in Urban Design from the Graduate School of Design, Harvard University. Welcome once again, Ashutosh, on Manthan with Saraswati. We are very, very, very happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Auntie, and I'm very excited to be here having this conversation with you. Okay. And yeah, excited to dive right in.
Okay, dive in. Let's dive into the conversation right away. So, Ashutosh, whenever I have a guest on my show, my first question is always, why did you choose architecture as a career path? You had a lot of other options in front of you, but why architecture as a career path?
Yeah, for me, I think growing up, I was always interested in the pragmatic, the logical aspect of things, but also the creative part of the brain, creative writing, artistic expression. I found, like, in the various fields out there, I found architecture to be a really good middle ground between pragmatic side of things and the artistic expression side of things. You need to learn skills of design and artistic expression, but also be technically savvy and have that understanding of structures, of mechanical, electrical systems, and all of these things. So I found that to be a channel to of interest for me.
Can we say that it was your creative interest and inclination towards the creative side? That's why you pursued architecture. So, but when it comes to your specialization, which you did in urban architect, so how is this urban design different from architecture program? Our viewers would really love to know it. If you can tell us in brief about it.
Sure, yeah. And so there's several fields in which city making happens. Architecture, which usually deals with like a single building or a small cluster of buildings. The other end of the spectrum is urban planning or city planning, where it's less to deal with design, but more with policy making. And so that's where you're making citywide or statewide policies and which are implemented on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then urban design is kind of in between these, where we really work on neighborhoods or districts, or large campus areas. Again, it's a middle ground between design and policy making, and also the scale between the building and the full city.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the key angle to urban design. And then there's also other fields like landscape architecture, which deals with, again, the landscapes and ecologies of neighborhood parks to like large ecological systems and area.
Okay. So we can say that architecture is the same, but one focuses towards the city and the towns, and that becomes the urban design of the architecture. Okay, great.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's nice. And, actually, we are getting to know a lot when new children come and speak to us. Actually, I'm getting more knowledgeable, to be very honest with you, because we have had so many guests from various fields. And now I'm getting to know more and more. So I'm sure people who are listening to us will also know what is urban architecture. And, people always hear about architecture, but what is urban architecture? I think Ashutosh is telling us so beautifully. And thank you for that explanation, Ashutosh. Just sort of curiosity, when we talk about doctor, we know what he does. When we talk about engineer, we know what he does, right? What does working professionally look like for an architect?
Yeah, sure. And I think I can speak to architecture and urban design as a collective. The way we work in offices usually starts in our education itself. Like our design space, the workshops or the classrooms that we would typically have are called studios. And each student usually has these large desks where they have lots of trace paper, sketches, models, everything up for display, and like ideas literally all over the boards and walls. And each student has this. So you really like stand up and look around, and you're seeing all your classmates work and sharing ideas, getting inspiration from each other. And that really translates into the office as well. So I think the office space generally is like that, just like lots of ideas and models and things all around us, which become a really like a source of inspiration. And then overall in the day-to-day works, I think urban design scale, what these are generally like large projects, and what we really work on is consensus building. So basically it's in these projects, like there are like multiple stakeholders. There's the clients. We also have to work with the city, and then also the lens that we bring into is we also like to involve the community in these projects, again, because these projects are going to have a huge impact on their livelihoods. And what really we like to focus on is how can we give them a equitable place on the table. And so a lot of our work also involves community engagement, which really means like first understanding a place, what is there on site today, who are the people there, what are their cultures, what are their challenges, what are their aspirations, and using that as one of the drivers, we then come up with design ideas and also reshare those then with the community, hear their feedback, hear about what interesting design ideas they might have. And so it's less of an approach of, oh, we know what's best for you, here, take it, and boom, this is like this new neighborhood in the city which like has either flourished or like really scarred several lives. But it's more like a collaborative and creative vision that we can all create together. And that's what we really strive for in urban design.
So basically, it's a collaboration of thoughts and ideas you put together to raise a building, right? Or raise a
Yeah,
park, or raise a building, or make a monument, or whatever it is, right? So it's basically when you come together with ideas, new and something very creative comes up, right?
yeah, exactly. And it's the challenge is about consensus building, because like the city, everyone has their different angles or interests. Like the developer will have their own interests, the city will have their own interests, even in the community, different groups will have their different interests. So I think what we work towards is like, how can we build a consensus around together that, yes, this place that we will make together in the next 10, 30, 20, 30 years will be really fruitful for all of us.
For me and as well as for my viewers. You mentioned consensus building, right?
Yeah.
Could you explain to us that what exactly is consensus building?
Sure, yeah. So let me give an example of projects that I've been working on, which is Google Downtown West in San Jose. It's a new campus area for Google in the city of San Jose. So when the news broke out that Google is moving into San Jose, there was a lot of fear, a lot of protests, a lot of distrust. Lot of people were upset that big tech giant coming into our city, tech culture taking over the place, and the image of like what a campus is, like this closed off area where nobody can enter, and it's like this alien spaceship that's landed there. And there were literally a lot of protests in the news and in the city. And I think at that moment it was like, okay, we really need to listen and just sit down and listen to people and hear them out. And then over a period of 2 years, like we listened, we participated, we had a lot of workshops with the community, with different organizations and pop-up events where we had large boards where people would pin up their ideas, their concerns, and then like moving forward, then we would share some of our design progress and thinking, and they would again give more feedback on that. And towards the end, like after the 2-year process, the project ended up getting a project usually goes to city council, where like the city council members vote for it to be approved or not. And again, there's a public forum where community members also support it or not support it. And that project ended up, after this period of 2 years, getting unanimous approval.
Oh.
Many organized local organizations as well. So I think really that to me is a strong example of consensus building and creating a shared space that really contributes to society as a whole in that area.
Yeah, wonderful. I think congratulations that the consensus building of what you saw about Google when San Jose came up, and you explained it so beautifully that how the approach went, unanimous voting for the building to be approved and present there. That's a wonderful explanation, and thank you so much for that, Ashutosh.
Not many people will know what is consensus building and how it goes about. So it is listening from an architect, I think, is a great informative session, which few minutes you explained it so beautifully. Very good.
Thank you.
So keep up and keep up your good work. Okay. So moving on.
Thank you.
You explained what the consensus building mean, how professionally you look into it. So when you are dealing with changes and transformation due to technology, now the technology is it's revolutionizing so rapidly. So how are you dealing with the changes and the transformation due to the technology?
There are like technological advances like in architecture and urban design in both spectrums. In architecture in particular, 3D printing is becoming more and more popular, and the construction process itself happens at like a much faster pace. It requires less human labor, and you can like really create forms and designs of buildings that you might not have been able to in the past. So that is one interesting technological advancement that has been coming up in the architecture field. And then in urban design, I think things like autonomous vehicles and I think those kind of things are also like changing the way like we might imagine cities as cars get more efficient in moving around. Maybe we don't need such big highways in cities anymore. Maybe it's become shared space where people, and a lot of the olden European cities follow that model of like shared space between people and vehicles, and also having a more transit focused areas.
So, Ashutosh, in the present era, there is no field left where technology has not set its foot. So, in your world of architecture, technology affects the way architects design a building from start to finish, and even the way the client experience the design process. See, when I talk about myself, we've had this 3D version to make one feel how the final outcome would become, right? That is because of the technology, right? So I also understand
Yeah.
that technology can improve the building efficiency and durability while making it easier to render a building design more accurately and efficiently. So, my question to you, how are you dealing with the changes and transformation due to revolution of technology?
That's a great question, and I think it's changed drastically again, like from like the 1900s where to the late 1950s, where everyone, and even of late, I mean, I think as late as the 90s, even till like we had the computer revolution. So before that, people would have like, again, huge boards, and we would physically draft using a big scale that would have like a set of strings on which you slide. It's called a slider, and you move that around, and with huge set squares and like pencils and pens, you have to make huge drawings, and that's how architecture and design would happen. We had some of that like in my early years of education too, and I really enjoyed it. But also there are the obvious cumbersome challenges of working in those big sheets. If you want to make a change, you have to either redo the whole thing, or like in studio all the time, like someone would spill ink all over their sheet, people would go crazy, all the things that happen. And so now, like, I mean, we've like shifted to computer technology where we use softwares like AutoCAD where we draft digitally, and those things have been a big jump in the way we work.
Okay.
And I think more recently, people have started working remotely, like a lot. Again, like I spoke about consensus building, and that happens not only at the larger city level, but also within the office, within the project teams. We need to discuss, share ideas. And these things would earlier happen on like big tables, again, with lots of trace paper where we would draw things. But now everyone's being remotely and working remote, and like, what do we do? And so there have actually been new companies coming up with, like there's a great software called Miro, which we use often, which is again literally like a big digital space where you can see everyone's pointers and everyone's, like whatever everyone's sketching, you can track it live and have conversations. And so that has become our new trace paper in a way in the remote from working from home period.
Yeah. See, technology has made a lot of difference, right? You can share the design and people can work on it, get back to it. So these are all the advantage of technology which we have had. So now when you are talking about...
Yeah, and I think close out one other point, I think the next frontier in technology, which is also again already coming up, is virtual reality as well. So again, like you're 3D modeling your designs and softwares, and you can share those experiences in real life and in lifetime, which is also a new leap that's coming up really fast.
That's wonderful, right? You know, virtual reality in games was always felt, you know, so we can play and, you know, we can, that now it's going to come in the field of architecture, which is going to be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful, because I think explaining design in words, or explaining the story or the intent of the design and the vision, is always a challenge. And so the closer we can get it to making that easier for the other person to understand it, the better the conversation is in the end.
See, that's what I was telling you, right? The technology can improve the building efficiency and it is also, it will make it easier to render the building design more accurately and efficiently to people. You know, people would say, how does it look like? How will that look like, right? Where are you going to place this? So once I think virtual reality, and you will be able to tell them very specifically, so they will also get a very clear idea, and they will give out the money to you guys and say, okay, get started with the project, right? Good.
Yeah, definitely.
Now we talked about how technology helps, how technology is giving the transformation, and you yourself from the set squares went back to the digital world to map up what your ideas and thing around construction. As an architect, you design for the present, with an awareness of the past for a future which is essentially unknown. This is what Norman Foster said for architecture. Can you share some example? You did share one example of the Google town which came up. So do you have any other experience of the projects that your office is working on? If it is allowed, can you share with our viewers just briefly?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'll just expand a little bit more on the Google Downtown West project that I was sharing earlier. And it was a collaborative vision. And again, it's not an office, closed off office campus where it's all just office buildings. Nobody in the city can come and visit there. It's not a cordoned off space. So what it is really a mix of land uses. There's office spaces, there's residentials, there's like parks and open space, there's like retail, cultural centers, art institutions, all of this. And again, all of these are not just for Googlers. It's all part of the city and part of the public realm where anyone can have access to these spaces.
Mm.
So I think that was one of the biggest results from like these conversations with the community, and really keep creating a shared space and not a isolated Google Tech campus hub.
Mm-hmm.
And I think other things that came out of our conversations were things like, are there any historic markers or important buildings that were from the 1900s and things like that that were important to the community? And then we identified those and speaking with them that, oh, okay, we really need to, like, there was a dancing pig meat sign, and that was a really important marker. And so like we realized, okay, we need to preserve this important cultural marker and piece in the project. And so we identified these kind of conversations, really, that collaborative vision came about. I think the other scale that we also work on, that urban design works on, is how it goes down to the scale of street furniture, where the side bench, where the street bench would go, or to that scale. And it really works in the public realm of how we experience cities.
Yeah.
And so another interesting project that we worked on was a collaboration with a nonprofit called Lava May. Mm-hmm. And their mission statement is radical hospitality. So their mission is about how can we really care for one another and inspire people around to care for one another in the moment. There are like larger issues, but right now what we can do. And so they believe of self-care as a human right, the right to shower, the right to cleanliness, and just giving attention and care to people. And so we actually partnered with them and worked on designing these mobile shower buses, and also designed a pop-up festival, which is like a small pop-up with some tents and chairs, and where homeless people could come, get a free shower, get a haircut, get a shave, and just feel good. And that can have an immensely positive impact on the way they're feeling, and also inspire others around to also, like really just look after one another. So I think that's like what's really interesting is the scale at which different scales at which urban design works. It could be from like a small pop-up fair or a street section to like a city block to like a huge neighborhood district.
Oh, wonderful to know this. I had no idea, no clue that, mobile shower buses can be a part of urban architecture, right? And this pop-up store, which you say that, with all those stationery items so that the homeless people can come and feel at home and do some creative work down there. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing such wonderful information on this platform, Ashutosh. Very happy to hear this. To be very honest, I'm not sure about others, but to me, I didn't know that the architecture had something like an urban architect. An urban architect, it is not just the buildings and the statues and the historical monuments or the parks and all that, but you are taking care of these. It's so interesting to know that how when a town is created or when a model town is made, there are so many aspects which you have to keep in mind, right? The monuments and the parks and the historical buildings. So many things have to be kept. Must be an interesting area when you want to work on certain things, right? So and it is also said that to serve the community, to spread happiness and to bring together the community and to serve them in such a loving way by giving this mobile shower buses and this pop-up what is it called, pop-up store. pop-up?
No, just a pop-up event, and it's like an
A
extension. So the
pop-up
bus
event.
would come in the same space, and then again, yeah.
That's great, great. It's wonderful. Right? So I'm happy that we are having this conversation, and you're telling me about these such new things. So, and it is being shared on this platform, so I'm sure people will also know about it, right? Architecture is really about well-being.
Yeah.
I think people want to feel good in a space, which is your mission too. As when I was introducing you, I said that you want simply happier human through your professional work, right? I feel very good personally when I have you youngsters come over and you share your experience like as a professional in whichever field you've chosen. And the purpose of this talk show is also, Ashutosh, is for the youngsters like you who have taken charge of your life and to come and share the thoughts and advise and to motivate the youngsters, so that they can learn from your experience and follow the footsteps. When you are working on these projects or these whatever the buildings you're taking or you're negotiating or you're having project in front of you which is soon to deliver, how do you manage your deadline or without getting stressed?
That's definitely a big challenge in any field that you're working on. And I think what we've found most helpful in our work is understanding the why. Why is that deadline there? Why does someone need something? Going into the essence of it, like what needs to be done to call that exercise a success. Taking a moment and being more strategic about what you need to do to achieve your goal in the deadline, and then focusing your energy on that. I think like thinking about the conversation of the deadline and what that might look like, thinking about what the person on the receiving end of the deadline might react to or might want. So really putting your shoes in other people's minds and understanding that.
So if I have to sum it up for the viewers, first point would be understanding the why, be strategic about what to do, focus your energy on the work, and sometimes also being considerate by putting the shoe of the other person and feeling that what the other person would feel like or react like so that you have your deadlines done by the day, right? Ashutosh, I know when you were a little boy and you studied and after that you went far away and then you went to Harvard to do your master's. So what was the most enjoyable part of your education?
I think I'll go back to like what I was sharing earlier in the conversation about studio culture, like the shared space where you're just seeing rows of like students and like your peers, their ideas, their models, and in the education there's really that culture of like working on your desk and having that visibility across like different people. And I think in graduate school again that extended to other disciplines, so there would be urban designers, urban planners, landscape architects, all within the same building. So you could even see ideas from different disciplines being shared across. That's a really exciting and inspiring. I think the second thing also is then by extension, like the interdisciplinary collaboration, where so we have these thing called studios, which is more like again classes where we would have a site, a professor, like there'll be 10 or 12 students, and then we would have a site. We would all go to the site, visit it, learn from it, and then create like projects around it. And I think those were also again opportunities of collaborative vision together.
I can say that very remarkable experiences in your education when it comes to your studio things and interdisciplinary things which you study. Yeah. So I think that's helped you to reach where you are. You are very keen towards creating more amicable and equitable environments and simply happier humans, right? So how do you plan to go with this?
I think it is like through the work and through the day-to-day, like through these projects, big and small, really like giving people a voice on the table of like city making and bringing their voice and perspective, empowering them to be on the table of discussion. So because like oftentimes what happens is, unfortunately, it's usually the developer and then to some extent the city itself as a municipality, like who are in the process of city making, and then projects just come up and I think like that has a really often negative impact on people, particularly like the marginalized communities in society. And that has been historically happening as well. To us, it is how can we empower people and give them voice in the city making process, and through that keep space for their aspirations and visions to come to life as well. Everyone is so they're flourishing as well from these new projects.
Very impressive and genuine thoughts, and I really hope you put it back in action when you really grow up into a strong architect. You're already an architect. You create an impact, and you are there to give this to the people. Yeah, Ashutosh, as we are talking about education, I want to take an opportunity that you students, or you who have taken charge of your life, to motivate the youngsters. So if I have to ask you that, what are the 3 advices you would like to share with the young minds who are listening to you now?
I don't know if I have 3, maybe I can share 1. To me, like what has been most helpful in finding my way through like studying undergrad or grad school or just navigating through the professional career, I think is finding what gives you happiness, like and joy, like what is fulfilling for you. And I think that can be a really strong driving factor. And I think it is important, like as you're working hard and things, like are you taking a moment to pause? Are you having fun? Are you enjoying what you're doing? Are you enjoying what you're studying? And I think that has really helped me, because like when things get hard or tough, I think if you're still at having fun, or if you feel passionately about it, if it is fulfilling to you, that's what will keep you going. So I think finding that what gives you happiness, what fulfills you, is has been very helpful for me.
Yeah, so you heard him. This is the strongest point, although it's not a 3-pointer, it is just 1 pointer, which is so very effective coming from Ashutosh. Finding what gives you joy and happiness, and following that, anything can be success. That's what you want to say?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for summarizing that.
It's for the adults also, that be happy with what you're doing, and you can achieve it, and you will be so content with your heart that you don't have to go and look for happiness elsewhere.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I think that goes across the spectrum of the young and the old and everyone. Yeah.
Ashutosh is giving all spiritual advice also. Great. So Ashutosh, when we end my show, I normally ask the guest, what has been the biggest aha moment?
I interestingly have had a aha moment, and that has been actually, that kind of ties back to like what we were talking about earlier about what gives you joy and fulfillment.
Yes.
So this was when I was working as an architect in Mumbai, and it was a long boring afternoon, like 3 o'clock in the workday. It's hot outside, and I was working. This was a project I was working on, which was a residential project for a single family, and we were designing like different railing options of like how the handle for the staircase might be, and this was like a high-end client's house. And to me, what struck me is I really don't care about how this railing looks like for this one single rich family. And I think I was always interested in like urban design, but I think that was my aha moment of like, okay, I don't want to ever do this again. And what that pushed me towards is, I want like my work and efforts, I want those to be in the public realm. And what that means is anything that can be experienced by the city or people at large, not just like for individuals. So I think that was my aha moment of finding, okay, what I'm not interested in doing anymore. And that pushed me towards finding like what I want to do further ahead in life.
Wow, wonderful. And we did have a little bit of Wi-Fi issue there, but then I can tell you that the moment you realize that these big things or the individual architecturing is not for you, but you are meant for urban, you are meant for people, you are meant for the town, you are meant for the public. And you realize this, and that was your aha moment, which gives us a great pleasure, and exactly following your dream that you want it for the people in general, right? Making people's life easy and people's life happy. and which actually follows what you want. And you said that finding what gives you happiness and joy is the best thing to do in life. Really good. I'm so proud of you, Ashutosh. And
Thank you so much.
yeah. So I would like to end my program with an amazing thought of Johannes Salk. Hope lies in dreams, in imagination, and in the courage of those who dare to make dreams into reality. Friends, ponder over this and enjoy the weekend. Once again, I want to thank Ashutosh Singhal for taking his time out and sharing his splendid thoughts, his motivational and inspiring thoughts with us. It was truly amazing, fantastic having you on this show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Auntie. Like, I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for having me on Manthan and on this platform to share.
I sincerely want to thank Mr. Suresh for helping me bring this talk show to you all. Kindly like the page Manthan with Saraswati, and this is Saraswati saying bye-bye and thank you for watching Manthan with Saraswati. Bye-bye.